Guys, thanks for listening to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I also want to thank the following sponsors for their support of this podcast. Without them, this podcast would not be possible. I want to thank the Go Hunt Insider, Lorenzo Sartini and his crew over at Go Hunt. They have created the Insider, which is an amazing tool for you guys that are researching all these different western states and looking for which units to apply for and put in for. They also have the Go Hunt maps, the Go Hunt gear shop. Right now, go to gohunt.com, click sign up for the Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a $50 Go Hunt gear shop gift card just for signing up. Go Hunt's been with me since the beginning of 2015. When I started this podcast, they've been a very loyal title sponsor of this podcast, and I want to thank them for their support. Make sure to go and sign up for the Go Hunt Insider. Use the J. Scott promo code. Guys, I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That's KUIU.com. KUIU Ultralight Hunting is a direct-to-consumer brand that sells the best ultralight hunting equipment and gear on the market today. You can go to KUIU.com, and order directly there on their website. I also want to thank phonescope.com, Cheston, the guys over at Phonescope. Go to phonescope.com. Anything you order there, use the JScott23 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount there at Phonescope. I also want to thank Lathrop & Sons. They're a custom boot system and custom footbed manufacturer. These guys are the boot doctors, the boot gurus. They're very, very helpful. They know a lot about boots. I have switched this season to the Lathrop & Sons Encompass boot. That's what I've worn primarily on my Coues deer and mule deer hunts in Mexico. And then I use the Mountain Hunter for my sheep hunts, specifically desert sheep, in any of that more technical terrain. Lathrop & Sons has a phenomenal 3D mapping imprints and tracing kit. They make custom orthotics, just really, really comfortable, very user-friendly boots and custom insoles. Go to lathropsons.com to find out more information. You can also check out Lathrop & Sons on Instagram. They have 3 custom boot options: the Mountain Hunter, the Mountain Hunter Elite, and the Mountain Hunter Encompass, as well as the High Country Synergy footbeds custom. They also make all of these custom footbeds in wide and super wide, as well as the boots, which is rare for a boot manufacturer. Reach out to the owners, Stephen and James at Lathrop & Sons at 618-544-8782. That's lathropsons.com. Guys, I want to thank you for supporting this podcast. Love to hear your feedback. Any questions you might have, you can reach out at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. That's my email address. You can follow along on Instagram at jscottoutdoors. Always feel free to send me a direct message. Love hearing from you guys. And let's get right to these episodes.
Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. This is your guest host, Cliff Gray. And today I have Jimmy Oswald on. He's the operations manager of Flat Tops Wilderness Guides. I actually used to own Flat Tops Wilderness Guides, and Jimmy and I worked together for 5 or 6 years. So we know each other pretty well. But today we're going to talk about the Colorado draw that's coming up here in the next month or so. And we're going to dive deep into some sheep and goat units, hit on elk and mule deer, and we'll talk a little bit about strategy and some other things having to do with the draw that we think will be very valuable to viewers. So, Jimmy, if I missed anything, hit on it. But how's life, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, of course. So, Jimmy, let's cover the basics first. Like, when's the draw deadline for Colorado? What if anything is new, and what should people kind of be looking out for? And actually, even before that, Jimmy, I keep getting questions about the winter. The winter conditions, particularly in the country that you hunt. So let's do that first, man. Give me the update on the winter there and what people are thinking is going to happen in terms of winter kill or anything like that, and then we could dive into that application stuff.
Yeah, so the winter on the Colorado River corridor, man, it's like I heard listen to your podcast with Robbie Denning, and everyone's kind of scared. Honestly, it's like the most primo winter, in my opinion, you could really ask for. There's a lot of snow up high, but down on the winter range, it's like wide open.
Yeah, so much.
For the most
it's just been kind of warm or something.
Yeah. So winter conditions, I think are great. Obviously, it's at least when we're talking, it's March 1st. We're getting into like the strategic time frame for animal health, right? So if we get our 3 feet of snow next week, that could really put a damper on things. But yeah, no, as long as we don't get any crazy storms, I think we're looking good.
Yeah, and like you say, man, like who knows? It depends always, what spring turns up. But dude, I always thought in that area, and I actually was talking to a guy yesterday about it. It's winter conditions are super localized, right? It could be pretty good on your side and along that river corridor, and then over in Eagle or up in Vail, it could be bad for wildlife. I mean, it just kind of depends. What does I'm sure you've been up there, Jimmy. What does the Eagle side look? Is Eagle all burn off, and is that country open too?
Man, honestly, I haven't spent much time over there. Just kind of cruise right through Eagle, but just right on 70, it seemed pretty darn open, and like behind where you used to live and that. I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, and that's all like real sensitive winter range for 44 and all that country. So that's kind of what I've heard too, man. It sounds like some of these other states are in way worse shape. But yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on that because I've gotten a lot of questions on that, and I'm totally out of it on that front. So I don't really know. So that's good to hear, man. But so let's jump into the draw stuff. When's the deadline? What's new, man?
Yeah, so today's the first day for the draw application for all of the species in Colorado. April 4th is the deadline. Again, I mean, everyone can preach it every year, but you're always going to have those guys that are going to wait till April 4th at 8 p.m. or not 8 p.m. because I think it actually closes at 8 p.m.
11:30 or 11:59 or whatever.
Yeah. Don't wait till the last day. Get it done at least a few days before that deadline. So on the draw front, there's the CPW is starting to move and I move a lot of stuff over to a lot of the archery stuff over to draw instead of over the counter. In my personal opinion, I think we're going to go to inside 5 years. I can't imagine that there's going to be over the counter either sex archery elk tags anymore. Right. I think we're going to get. I think we might have over the counter, but over the counter with caps, or they're going to be these super easy draws. You're going to draw them as second choice. So really not too much is going to change, but you're probably not going to be able to go and buy those tags, at Walmart on your way to your hunt.
Right. Yeah. And one of the main units you guys hunt in is one of the few, I shouldn't say one of the few, but it's still over the counter, whereas a lot of surrounding stuff is draw. And then some more units this year went draw, right?
Yeah. And then, what I'm kind of starting to tell guys is, and it kind of goes against, some aspects of like building points and application strategies. But for the guys that have always hunted over the counter, I'd start building a couple of points, even if you always plan on hunting over the counter, just for that reason, right? As soon as everything goes to a draw, you might start needing a point or two. Again, I wouldn't go and collect them and try to hunt, unit 2 in Colorado, because if you just are starting that now, you're never going to draw it.
Yeah, but you bring up a
But-
good point. You bring up a good point, Jimmy. Like when this thing actually shifts to mostly draw, there's going to be a huge difference between having 2 points and not having any.
Yeah, for sure. And then, and a rabbit hole that I don't really want to go down anymore. But with the reintroduction of wolves, like by December of this year, there are going to be released wolves in Colorado, and I think the number is around 30. And as those numbers start to grow, they are going to have to start cutting the elk tags.
Right.
At one of the meetings, I mean, it was verbatim, came out from one of the biologists that wrote the management plan. 100 wolves are going to kill 1,000 elk, and for every 1,000 elk that they kill, they're going to have to cut the tag allocations by 10,000. And the management goal is 200. So we're talking about 20,000 elk tags throughout the state, specifically the Western Slope. They're going to get cut. Chances are it's going to be a lot of the non-resident tags are going to be the ones that are getting cut too. So
Right. Yeah. And that's just like you say. I mean, that's just like the rational and obvious thing that's going to happen for sure. And it's kind of funny the way you say it, Jimmy, because it's like, yeah, no crap. That's what's going to occur. But I think to some extent, I don't think really anybody's acknowledged it fully until right now, realizing like, yeah, these wolves are going to for sure eat elk. There's really no way around that. There's no other explanation, right? Like, yeah, they could redistribute elk, and there could be some spots that hypothetically the elk hunting gets better, in that real localized area or whatever. But overall, across the state, hunter opportunity is going to go down. There's really no other way to look at that. So I think your point is a good one. It's like there's a lot of people out there that really could care less about accumulating any elk points in Colorado, which I was kind of in that boat for the last 10, 15 years. Like, why? I mean, I wouldn't really worry about it too much, or you might as well get one while you're hunting over the counter or whatever. But now it's going to be relevant, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And just talking about wolves killing elk. Unfortunately, the one species that's doing great in Colorado are moose. They're going to be the first ones. So the guys that are applying for their moose tags, man, in a handful of years, like there's all these new units and more tag quotas are going up and everything.
Yeah. Well,
you don't charge your moose tag.
I have to jerk your chain, dude, because you slipped in underneath the finish line and got your moose last year. So you left the rest of us to get the scraps of the wolves, man. But no, I think you're right, dude. Like, I mean, just my exposure to all the moose in Colorado, I've never found one that was really smart. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure part of that's biology, just the biology of moose. But part of that is that they literally have been living in Colorado with no predators for a few decades, right?
Yeah, and if you look at other states, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, their moose populations are declining. And my guess is, and I think most biologists would probably tell you, it's predation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and they will. I mean, these little. Yeah, it's kind of weird because the moose travel. I mean, you can tell me your opinion, Jimmy, but the moose they do travel far distances in Colorado, but they are still like kind of localized populations. And I do think that, wolves get established in certain spots and basically moose are going to get extirpated out of certain areas that they've been doing pretty well in.
Yeah. Well, I dove a little bit when I did draw that moose tag last year. I did dive into it a little bit. And like those cows, they don't move nearly as much as you would think. Like the bulls are constantly roaming, they might travel 10 miles, 15 miles in a day, but those cows they're pretty localized.
Yeah. And what's funny, man, is in your outfitting area, my old outfitting area, I think that's why we used to see bulls kind of like in consistent spots. A lot of times they weren't the same bulls. They were just bulls coming in to check cows that lived in those places or whatever. Yeah, for sure. And actually we had the so I had my bull tag and then we had the cow tag in the cluster of units there as well. And I mean it was kind of a slam dunk hunt. We were seeing that same cow
almost every day.
Yeah, you knew where the cow was.
In like a half-mile stretch. And we just rode up there and
got it done.
whacked
Yeah, but I think I think the moose thing is probably, I don't know why, man. I think it's because there's so much positive momentum with them in Colorado. They've been like this epic species, on the quantity and quality front. Dude, and I think for me, while I had that outfitting business and while I was outfitting in Colorado, I saw like moose go from like pretty minimal to like pretty prevalent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually the opening of a unit to hunting that hadn't been open before. So you saw like that success story, and then wolves are gonna just there's probably no way around that that the moose deals is the window on that's going to close. I mean, I don't know what the time frame will be, but the wolves are going to put a herd on them. So
and I think if you go and talk to the guys like up in the northern part, like in the Raywas and up by Walden, that have these huge moose quotas and everything.
Yep.
And that's where these wolves are coming in from Wyoming naturally.
Sure.
They're gonna see effects in. I don't think the wolves are gonna be killing a full-grown bull moose, but I think they're gonna be killing those calves left and right. And in a couple of years, you're gonna see those populations really declining. So.
Yeah. What I wonder, man, on this topic, and I mean, we don't need to get like crazy negative on it. I'm just more interested in it. I wonder in Colorado with some of those sheep populations, you know what I mean, Jimmy, that winter in fairly accessible areas, and they actually winter fairly close to where elk winter. I mean, in my mind, I specifically think of some that live along the Highway 70 corridor. I wonder if wolves are not going to wipe some of those out too. Just because I don't see how, if I was a wolf, I don't know why I wouldn't work some of those sheep, because they haven't been that exposed to predators. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, some of the sheep, like in our backyard, they like go walking across the top, and it's like, if there's a wolf that season, and there's not a chance.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly what I mean, man. Like these sheep, I think all these sheep that have been like perpetually harassed by all predators, they tend to always hold to cover, you know what I mean? Or to terrain, right? And that's how they avoid wolves. But I think, I wonder if some of these little, isolated populations of sheep that Colorado has, they haven't been exposed to predators other than lions. And lions can kill them in the rocks anyways. But, if they're not actually spending a fair amount of time in mild terrain where wolves can kill them, I don't know. It's just kind of a thought. I'm curious if that'll be any different,
Yeah, well, I'm kind of hoping not to talk bad on the producers or whatever, but I think the wolves are going to go after the domestic sheep.
Yeah,
at least in our country first. I mean, they write there's freaking fairy tales about wolves and sheep.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. And I think the sheep thing, if I was going to just take a long shot on like where a big problem is going to be with wolves, like depending on where they put them, man, it could be within like the first 6 months, it's going to be on domestic sheep. And I mean, you can tell me your thoughts on it, but generally right now, domestic sheep have herders with them because they're so susceptible to predators. I mean, a bear could run through a sheep flock and kill 20 ewes, like, and it's not going to care, right? So they protect them. Now, there's, everybody says like, well, what are they going to do with the wolves? Well, I think in general, because there's so much publicity around this, I think the guys are, they're going to follow the law. They're not going to kill wolves that are on their sheep. Because if they did, you're talking about sending guys to prison and ruining their life with how much exposure this wolf thing has. So I don't think there's going to be a bunch of like vigilante wolf killing, even on domestic sheep. But so there is going to be, I think, some scenes, man, when a bunch of wolves get into some of those groups of sheep.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're going to go to prison for 10 years.
Yeah. So no, yeah. I mean,
and then the other thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, and then the CPW upped the like reimbursement for loss of livestock up to $15,000. I don't think there's, and I'm not a sheep guy. I don't think there's a sheep out there that's worth $15,000, but they are going to get top dollar for every depredated.
Oh yeah. They might.
So
yeah, they might push
Yeah.
how much those sheep are worth. No, I hear you, but it could just be that could be a really interesting one, man, because unprotected sheep are they're like bait for all predators.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, it's funny you brought that up because I was thinking the same thing, man. Like, whoa, man, like these bands of sheep, and you have them near you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got guys that work big groups of sheep in there. So yeah, no, I'm with you on that, man. They're gonna kill those before they work the bighorns. But anyways, man, yeah, the wolf deal will be interesting. It is what it is for now, right? They're coming.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing we can do.
But yeah, but circling that back to the draw, I think you're right. There's a timeline to that, and it's going to have some changes to the dynamic. So essentially, what you're saying is get ahead of it and try to get some points, and pray really hard you draw your moose tag in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. You nailed it.
Yeah, but actually on that, Jimmy, and we'll dive into units and that sort of thing. But you're a pretty young guy. You drew your moose tag with I think fairly low amount of points, so you had some luck on it too. But what are your thoughts on what can a guy do, particularly on these specialty species like moose, sheep, goat? What can he do to up his odds? And what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, if you're just starting, it's pretty dim odds. Like I don't even,
Sure.
If you're just thinking about starting to put in for points now, there's so many people. I think there's more people with under 10 points that are drawing tags for goat, sheep, and moose than there are with guys over 10 points. So that 10 point and under cohort is gigantic.
Right.
But if you do want to up your odds, like going in and hunting like these really sexy sheep units, let's say S12, right? That's a real popular one, and one that we guide in, and it's a great unit, great sheep, lots of sheep, big
12
sheep.
12's what? Oh yeah, I know where. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's on the
It's over outside like Fairplay, right?
Yeah. Like what's unit 49 for elk.
Yeah, it's
right?
always been. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Jimmy. I was like, where is that? And I was getting confused with the goat unit. But go ahead, man.
Yeah, no, you're good. So that's like a real sexy unit. S74, which is the Glenwood.
Yeah.
The Glenwood herd. Some of these, like on the Front Range, that are in the Pooter and the Thompson Canyon, I think 58 and 40, that a lot of people are looking at the sheep all the time. Those are ones that are going to get hammered. There's big sheep in there. If you draw it, you're going to probably shoot a great sheep. You're going to see a lot of sheep, but, and they're not, some of them aren't as rugged as some others, but if your main goal is to draw a tag sooner than later, going for a more subpar unit, whether it's lower quality, lower quantity of sheep, that's going to be your way to go. And like when I talk to guys, the first thing I ask them is, what do you want out of the hunt? Do you want to draw the tag sooner than later? Which again is still abysmal odds, but it might be 3 times better than some of these other units. So looking for maybe going to a lesser unit, looking for a unit that they just added a tag to. A lot of guys are always going to apply like, I elk hunt over here. So, and I see sheep when I'm elk hunting and I'm applying there no matter what. And maybe they just cut tags in there.
Right.
And you have the same 300 people applying for 2 tags. Now you have 300 people applying for 1 tag. So look at that. Look for when they do add a tag to a unit as well. And then, I don't think I'd have to look at the brochure again, but I don't think they added any sheep units or took any sheep units away. But they did add a goat unit, G18, and I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a sneaker unit, a new unit, no recent history in there,
Yeah,
and there's four
it's
tags.
a pretty rugged area. It borders a bunch of those bigger goat units, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was looking at it on X. I mean, I think the whole thing is wilderness. Like, I don't think there's an inch in there that's not wilderness.
Yeah, it's all Holy Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah, and no other. Are there any other big? Well, I guess back to your point, this deal when they add tags or take away tags is huge because there's always a lag, like in terms of the draw. Yeah. It's always significant, and people should always pay attention to that. Like I think about Jimmy. I mean, you remember when we used to spend a bunch of time in G12.
Yeah.
And in there, when they really started hammering those goats, like I don't know, they like tripled the quota in there or something. And it was kind of like, well, should I put in for that? Shouldn't I put in for that? Because there's going to be so many hunters in there. But now reflecting on it and looking at the odds at that time, like for sure, like you.
Yeah. Well, funny you brought that up, Cliff, because let me pull this up. Because so in 2022 they gave out that would be 80. They gave out 80 goat tags in G12.
Yeah.
Total. This year there's 60 total. Yeah. So it's a pretty big decrease, and I think you're going to have those same guys like, oh man, were they giving out all these tags? Well, again, G12. I mean, that's the most tags to give out anywhere, so it's still probably some of your better odds. But the odds are going to get a little bit tougher because they cut tags back by 20 tags. They cut it back by 25%.
Yeah, now everybody's caught up to that. There's a ton of tags that a lot of people are putting in there.
Yeah,
and then to boot, there's the situation that me and you know about, that every easy Billy in that country to kill is dead.
Yeah.
I mean, now that hunt is like a freaking, you got to have the biggest balls in the neighborhood to hunt a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, there's no more. I can't imagine that there's been a goat killed at Maroon Lake in years.
Yeah. Or like a, quality Billy. I mean, there's always random stuff, but like in general, I mean, the accessibility of the goats there, I'm sure with what they've been killing, is like, it's a totally different hunt than when they started to crank those tags.
Yeah, for sure. And it was by design.
That's just one example. There's other ones like that too. You know what I mean? But it's kind of related to that. I think is a good, at least in my mind, it's some good advice for people, and that's particularly these sheep units, Jimmy, and you guys I know guide in some of them, but a lot of the ones you guide in are like 5-6 tag units, right?
Well, I'd say that
so a lot of the sheep units that you guys guide in, they've got 5 or 6 ram tags. So they got pretty well established sheep herds in them. And then you've got other units where there's like 1 tag or 2 tags, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed, and I really think about this a lot now, is if you look at the stats, like particularly on the quality of rams in those smaller units, like they can go, I mean, it could be great for 2 years, and then everybody's putting in because they saw you just slammer rams come out, and you could literally be putting in for a unit where there's not a mature ram in there.
Yeah.
If you just look at the stats. So it's hard, man. It's hard because go ahead.
Well, so last year I had the Glenwood the S74 sheep tags as a pretty hot pick with it. For one, there was a non-resident tag in there, so that was a good one. But the 2 biggest rams in there, and one was, the granddaddy, the slammer. I'm not 100% sure, but no one's seen him. Pretty sure the 2 biggest ones in there got killed. And you're going to, now there's nothing all that special about that sheep herd other than they're highly visible. There's not,
Yeah.
the 185-inch ram in there.
Yeah, and there'll probably be a big lag, right? Like people are going to
Yeah.
keep applying, and yeah, it's. I mean, it's hard because I guess it's a hard piece of advice, right? Because you're basically what we're saying is like you got to get insider knowledge to be making sure you're not putting in for a unit that the sheep got hit real hard or whatever. Because if you look at the stats, you don't know. I mean, you don't know. I mean, if you look at a unit and they three killer rams got taken out of it, you don't know if the guys hunted those 3 individual rams and they were all by themselves and they were the biggest rams in the unit, or those guys killed 3 rams out of a group of 12 rams that were all big. You don't know. But I would say in general, and tell me your opinion, Jimmy, but if you see a unit that's been like marginal, and then like 1 or 2 years of big rams coming out of it, you got to be real cautious, because to me it just tells me that somebody figured out where the older age class band of rams went, and they might have wiped them out.
Yeah, for sure.
But sheep are unique that way, man. Let's talk about sheep units, Jimmy. Give me the rundown on the ones that you guys guide and kind of your thoughts.
Yeah, so we guide in S11, S17, S66, S47, S12, S23, S2, and S59. And just so we don't get any slack from the feds or anything, I manage Flat Tops Wilderness Guides, but then I also manage another outfit that we recently purchased called Horn Fort Guides, which is outside of Buena Vista. So that's why we have so many units that we're able to guide in.
Yep. And Jimmy just saying that because it gets real convoluted on this stuff, like where you can guide and what units and all that. But they got it all. They got it covered. So good disclaimer, man.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably have made a comment or two like that in your.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, nowadays you got to like keep all that stuff straight. So, but yeah, and I would guess, man, there's a couple other guys that got, pretty, they're pretty well distributed and can cover a bunch of sheep and goat units. But I'm guessing you guys probably have the most assortment you can guide in nowadays, or at least you're one of the ones that have the most.
Yeah, I'd think so. I mean, it's a pretty big chunk.
Yeah. But yeah, go for
it.
As far
as kind of my ranking, I really like S11. It's a good unit. Some pretty good quality sheep. We shot a 174-inch ram out of there last year. I don't think there's anything going to be bigger than that, but I think like 160-inch ram is kind of what you should be looking for.
Is it a backpack deal, day hunt deal? What kind of hunt is it?
Yeah, so it was a day hunting deal, which is and S11 is it's not quite as physical as some of these other units. You can day hunt it. You go get a hotel in Buena and go hunt it in the morning, and then come back. You could take a siesta and go back out in the evening if you wanted to.
Yeah, but it's still big.
There's some decent
14er country, so it's big.
Yeah, I mean it's still huge mountains, but there's like some pretty good road access.
Sure, get around.
Before I get ahead of myself, it overlaps with G3, so there's good road access. There's wilderness in there as well, where you can get away from some folks, where the sheep can get away from hunters. You're going to see a lot of hiking traffic in there, which sucks, but I think that's like basically almost everywhere for the most part now. So S11, I rank that really high, and they do give out a non-resident tag in there. S17 is one of my top picks too, but it's like if you're over 60 years old, it's probably not the unit for you. There's no day hunting it. You got to go hike in. You got to pack in your own water. There's like no water up there. you're probably going to sleep out under the stars. There's not anywhere to pitch a tent. And your sheep quality is a little bit lower, like 150-inch ram. That's going to be, a good representative ram in there. But it's going to be one of your higher draw odds.
Yeah, sure.
S66, same thing. It's going to have a little bit better access than say S17, but you're still going to be, those mountains are no joke.
Yeah, probably backpack hunting it.
Yeah.
Did they kill big rams in there last year? Do you know, Jimmy?
You know what? I don't think we had a hunter in S66.
Yeah, but I guess they don't have the stats out yet, right?
It sucks. Yeah, because you have to go back to. I can only see like horn measurements from 2021. They should be publishing that stuff before the draw, but
dude, they for sure should. I think somebody. I mean, I don't know. Those guys got a lot on their plate right now with the whole wolf thing. But man, when these like 5-year season structure meetings come up, if you're at those or whatever, dude, you should tell. I mean, there's no excuse for there not to have the horn stat, the age and horn stats on these animals, because they collect them. They collected them, last season.
Yeah, I told you, I've been doing a little lion hunting lately. Dude, they update those things like every minute.
Yeah.
You can go on there, check the quotas. And it'll tell you there's like a timestamp, and it's like always it's within 5 minutes of me checking.
It drives me crazy they don't do that on sheep, because it matters so much. I mean, you can know of a couple rams in a unit, and you can't keep track of all the units. You don't know somebody in every unit, and you want to know, like, hey, did those rams get killed or not? It'd probably be useful to know that.
Yeah, and you can tell you can tell pretty quick. They give you the base measurements and then horn length. Like, you're going to figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
But so S66, another high pick for me. Yep. They give out, I think there's 2 archery tags in there, which is semi handful. I don't know, probably since like 2020 or so, they started giving out those archery tags in there, which definitely move some sheep around in there. S12, like I said, that's a great unit, but going to be harder to draw. S47, historically back in the day was great, but the sheep herds are coming back by a bit. And then I'm always going to pitch S59 as a great unit. It's my backyard.
Yeah, it's a fun. I mean, I think that unit, Jimmy, it's like, it's like a small sheep herd, but the other pitch, I think there's that you can horseback it, right? It's pretty good horse country. So if you want to do a horseback sheep hunt, it's pretty good.
It's probably one of the few where a horse is actually going to be of benefit to you. And if you don't have a horse, it's actually going to kind of suck.
Because it's pretty big country to get around.
Yeah, and there's two separate herds in that unit, but like the cool herd. The cool herd.
I mean, if you want to give it a working over and see all the sheep there, you kind of gotta go into the wilderness horseback, or huge long backpack hunt or whatever. I think it's a cool unit. I mean, I'm biased like you, man. Yeah. But of all the dead sheep pictures that I have, that's the only one that I have that has a ram's head on a mule's back. So, and that's actually a hunt that you guided. So that makes it pretty cool, man. And I was just looking, Jimmy, because that 66 and 12, I think it's worth noting, like for archers, 12, I think draws pretty difficult for archers. I don't know what 66 is doing, but they're hard archery hunts, man. Like, it's big open country.
Yeah. I mean, it's look, I'm always kind of torn, right? I am an archery hunter. Yeah. I don't know if like these sheep tags are never going to be a twice in a lifetime anymore. It's like without a doubt going to be a once in a lifetime.
Yep.
I don't know, and you're lucky if you get it once in a lifetime, but I don't know if I want to, I shouldn't say waste, but use my once in a lifetime tag and be restricted to archery equipment.
Like I'm looking at 66 right now, Jimmy. Like as you talk, and like 66, so no rams got killed in 2020 with a bow. And then one ram did get killed in 21. I don't know what happened in 22 because, like you said, they don't have the stats out. But so it's not like, it's tough. I wouldn't be surprised in that unit, since they had it open in archery, if only one ram's been taken with a bow. I'm not saying that's the case because I don't know what the recent year is, but it wouldn't surprise me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think in general, like I can't, don't quote me on this, but I would suspect that the CPW and especially in a lot of these units, even with a rifle, are kind of expecting 30% or 50% success rate.
Yeah, on sheep hunts. Some of them are, yeah.
With a rifle. So with archery equipment, they're just like throw tags out there, get people to burn some points, make some money, and you're gonna have like sub 10% success.
Yeah. And I don't know, because you bow hunt more than I do, man. So I get it. I get it if a guy or a gal is just they really want to kill one with a bow. I get it, but at the same time, it's a pretty difficult hunt, because in some of these areas you can spend 7-8 days just trying to find the rams.
Yeah.
Which
brings me to
go ahead.
Yeah, no, in S44, let me see what they're giving out this year. I don't remember off the top of my head. So they're giving out one archery and one rifle tag to non-residents, and then 4 archery and 1 rifle to residents this year. So there's slammer sheep in there, but and the draw odds are good on it. That's when, and we've kind of talked about it, but
sure.
The sheep are spending a fraction of their time even in that unit anymore.
Right.
The CPW, and they know it. They need to expand. They need to expand the unit, and I feel bad for some of these guys. I've talked to, I think, 2 guys that drew archery tags in there and hunted every single day and never drew their bow back.
Yeah,
rarely saw sheep.
Yeah, they probably saw the sheep. They just saw them outside of the unit.
Yeah. And the sheep so in 2021 they shot, there were 7 tags all total in there. There were three shot. One of them wasn't even legal. 2 of them weren't even legal.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I'm looking at in the archery ram taken. Yeah, I'm just looking at, so 1 ram did get taken with a bow there. They were obviously on the more accessible side of the unit, it looks like. But yeah, I mean, basically what you're saying is there's a lot of archery tags that have been going into that unit without success. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not clicking through all the stats right now. But it's a tough unit. I mean, Justin, and he wouldn't mind us talking about it. I don't think, Jimmy, because he wouldn't, and a lot of people know who he is, and he's a very, very accomplished bow hunter. Justin Schaefer had a tag in there years ago, and he struggled, man. It took him 2 weeks, and he had a lot of buddies helping him. He's got some roots in Colorado, so he had a bunch of buddies helping him look for sheep. And I think it took him, grinding at it quite a while to kill one in there. It's just a difficult one to kill one with a bow.
Yeah, and it can get super competitive in there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the rams do.
You have like 2 guys making stalks on the same ram at the same time.
Yeah. If they happen to be in the right spot. But yeah, man, I don't mean to keep going off track. You got any more sheep stuff?
No, that's probably
Yeah.
I mean, to kind of recap, S11, S17, S66, S59, S12, S47, kind of my top picks for sheep. So S2 used to be on the top of my picks. But this year it's not. There's been some sheep shot out of there. The two biggest rams are no longer in there.
Yeah,
and
that was always a unit that it's a real difficult unit. It had some big sheep in it. Basically, it got some pretty accomplished sheep hunters in there that got some of them out of there, and so hopefully it gets better in the future, huh?
yeah, I will say I kind of underestimated the number of rams in there by about
really?
like a pretty decent amount. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of them out on the winter range, right off the highway.
Yeah.
I think there was 28 rams.
Oh, okay.
I used to have it at I used to think there was about 18. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I remember glassing those sheep, I think actually with you years ago.
Yeah.
And there was probably 15, 20 rams or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, that herd, man, historically in there, and that's a tough hunt, just so people know. Those are pretty rough mountains, and the sheep get real dispersed across them. But that herd has gone up and down big time, and that herd also has some controversy around it because the winter range of that herd is a little bit threatened.
Yeah.
Just by land development.
Yeah, so that's kind of it for my sheep stuff.
Sure, let's do goats, man.
Cool. So there's a lot of overlap on some of these goat and sheep units. You'll be looking for goats and you see sheep. You'll be looking for sheep and see goats. Basically, the goat units that we can guide in are G1, G2, G3, G6, G14, and G17. G1 is going to be archery only, super low success. That unit overlaps with G17, so you're kind of in the same boat. It's super rugged mountains. Might be packing your own water on your back up there, but there are some. There's some.
It overlaps with S17.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In that country, I got you. Yep. Go for it, man.
Yeah. So it overlaps with S17. Crazy rugged, gnarly stuff. Was looking at some sheep in there this past season, and there's some slammer billies in there. You could shoot a giant in there, but it's archery only. So
what are your thoughts on archery goats?
That's probably the one that I would put in for if. That's the one once in a lifetime tag that I would put in for archery only. Just because I think, I don't know, I'd have to sit down and think about it, the goats that I've shot, but I would venture a guess around 50% have been inside bow range.
Yeah. The goats you've guided. Yeah. And I'm the same way, dude. I think, Jimmy, that the majority of the goats that I've guided with a rifle could have been killed by a proficient bow hunter. The majority. It might have taken a little more work. And the other thing is the individual would have to be obviously a good archer, but they'd also have to be probably a little more comfortable with terrain, right? You have to be
you're going to be peeking over the top and seeing one bedded. And shoot.
Yeah. So you're going to have to just be a little more comfortable with that. But I'm with you, man. I think it's very doable. And I'd have to look at the differential, between, odds wise between archery goat tags and rifle goat tags. Years ago, I looked at it, and to me, even though I would be very willing to hunt one with a bow, to me, it still made sense to just put in for rifle tags. And then if I wanted to kill one with a bow, I could still kill one with a bow during the rifle season. To me, there just wasn't enough differential. But I'm with you. If there was a big differential and archery tags were way easier to draw, that's probably how I would approach the goat deal.
Yeah. And you have to block out a pretty big chunk of time for it. At least,
Yeah.
we run our the majority of our goat hunts at 4 days of hunting. I think if you're going to try to book a archery goat hunt,
Oh yeah.
you're at least 7 at least.
Yeah. You'd have to have a bigger time frame about it and that sort of thing. But it's, I'm with you. And I think some people, they're going to hear that, Jimmy, and they're going to be like, well, what's the difference between sheep and goats? And a lot, you know what I mean? When it comes to actually where there might be some overlap, but where they spend most of their time is there's so much more terrain, right? I mean, it's so much crappier, which obviously has the downside of just being like dangerous and kind of hair raising at times. But for an archer, it's just easy to get in there. And then the other thing is they're dumber. I mean, in general, I mean, and dumber, I guess dumber's not the word, but they're
just
so,
tolerant.
Yeah. What's that?
Tolerant.
Yeah. And they're so dependent on terrain for safety. You know what I mean? So, so yeah, I think that'd be a fun archery one. But back to your original point about just putting in, I mean, I would just point blank say it. If you haven't been putting in for goats already and you don't have any points, just try to make more money. Yeah. My thought is just try to make more money in life and go hunt them in Canada, something like that. Go hunt them in Alaska, because for the money and the time involved, that's a better approach now with how the draw.
Cliff, I don't even think you would need to make more money. Like, let's say you got lucky as a non-resident and drew a goat tag. You start right now and you put in, and you draw it by year 15. Well, as a non-resident, it's $100 a year to put in. So you got $1,500.
Oh yeah.
And then you're going to go hire an outfit for $5,000, right? And this is assuming no inflation from the outfitter or from the state, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But so you're at $6,500.
Yeah.
Over the course of 15 years.
Yeah.
Well, for $9,000, and then you remember your tip to the guide and everything.
Yeah.
But for $9,000, you go to British Columbia on your own schedule, know when you're going to do it, and you're going to be 15 years younger. It's
a no-brainer. If you want to go hunt, just do the pay to play options, I think.
Yeah, for goat and for moose, right? You can go to British Columbia and do a moose hunt for $9,000 as well.
Yeah. Yep. And particularly if Colorado loses its quality a little bit on moose, that'll for sure be the case. I mean, the one thing for moose in Colorado is that they're just so big. It's hard to kill a shite that's that big in BC right now. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's valuable to people. Like, don't always get caught up in these draws when there's other realistic options. But yeah, man, go ahead and we can keep on.
Yeah. So G2 only residents this year. And I think it's been resident only for quite some time. That's a really good unit, a little bit harder to draw, but there's some really good road access. My first goat hunt with you could basically drive to the top of 15er.
That's right, man. That's a fun unit to hunt, I think.
Yeah, and some good goats in there. But again, a little harder to draw. G3, hands down, my favorite unit. Give out a bunch of tags. I think they give out 36 tags in there, split between there's 2 seasons, like an early and a later season. My guess is that the early season, I didn't look at the statistics, but my guess is the early season is going to be a little bit easier to draw. The goats aren't going to have quite as long of hair. The second season, probably a little harder to draw. Goats are going to have better hair. You do run into the potential of some weather at that time. But either way, first, the early season or the latter season in G3, that's an awesome hunt. They give out some non-resident tags in there as well. They give out 4 non-resident tags in there. So that's hands down my top goat pick.
Yeah. Hey, and on On that unit, Jimmy, a couple of questions there that I used to always get. What do you have a strong opinion first season versus second season? And it goes for all the units that have a split season. Like give the listeners the breakdown of that so they kind of understand the pros and cons.
Yeah. So, there's, and we're going to use G3 for the example instead of G12, just because I haven't spent much time over
Sure.
there recently. But so G3, I'm not looking at the season dates.
It's like the first 2 weeks of the season is the first season, second roughly the second two or whatever.
Yeah. So the goats are going to be during that first season, and during both seasons, they're going to be growing out their winter hair. But it is crazy how much 2 weeks makes a difference on the goat hair, and we're talking 6 inches in 2 weeks difference in some of these goats.
Yeah, it's if it matters to people, you're completely right. There is a big difference.
Yeah,
I actually think it was in G3. I remember guiding a hunter, like on, like right when the season started, like September 7th or something like that. He killed a goat, and I remember it because it was hot, and up there the bees get real bad when it's hot, and I remember when I was skinning it because I full body skinned that goat, and then the next hunt that was like 10 days later, and it was like in the same drainage. And so I recall seeing that goat and being like, this goat is like, it's still kind of got its summer hair. Like it wasn't patchy at all. Like the nannies get, like those billies will start to grow a full set or a full set of hair by like September 10th. So basically beginning of the season. So it had a nice coat, but it was probably only like, this long. I had another hunt like 10 days later. Basically I could see the gut pile of the first hunt, from where this one was. And that goat, that billy in 10 days had hair like that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a significant difference if it matters to people.
Right. And in my opinion, no one's gonna, like, if you have the thing mounted on your wall and you shoot a badass 9.5-inch billy, which in Colorado, that's pretty darn big. And you have a 8-inch in another house, no one's going to be able to tell the difference, including me.
No, yeah.
So, but everyone can tell the difference in the hair, and their shops. And so in my mind, Billy, obviously everyone wants a Billy, but most people aren't even going to be able to tell a Billy from a nanny, but still like shooting Billies.
Sure.
So if you can't tell a difference in size, but you can tell a difference in hair, why not go for that?
Right. Yeah. But no, I agree. But what's the downside of second season?
Well, you had 18 guys in there. Well, I guess actually, you had 18 residents, 2 non-residents in there 2 weeks earlier, shooting probably the more accessible goats. But then, the goat season goes to October 5th, I think. October 5th up at 13,000 feet can be a total crap show. I mean, the snow flying could be downright miserable. And hunting goats in the snow, no matter what anyone says, it is definitely harder. Yeah, they aren't exactly snow colored. Like they kind of have like that dirty yellowish tint, but they're still way harder to see. You're not going to spot one from a mile away with your naked eye like you sometimes can do.
Yeah. For sure. Glassing them's way harder. So glassing is way harder. And then the second one is it's way easier to die. And some people are going to laugh. Some people are going to laugh, but like this much snow, like a little, a slick of snow up there and that stuff, to me is like a game changer hunting goats. It makes it harder to get to areas you need to get,
Yeah. The handful of times, like I'm not like some crazy adrenaline junkie or anything, but there's never been like a super great, I take that back. There's been a couple pretty seamless goat pack outs.
The first one you were talking about, the first goat hunt you ever did, I remember skinning that goat in the grass.
Yeah.
That was that was the easiest spot I think I've ever seen it go.
Yeah, well, I packed, killed one that we could have actually taken a horse to, which would have been pretty sweet.
Sure.
But that's not the norm. Like the handful of times that I feel like I've been close to death, 2 of them were on a goat hunt.
Yeah.
Just because it died in some crap hole, and you're coming down a scree field, and there's a boulder the size of a desk rolling down next to you that you loosened up 400 yards above you. It can get western really quick.
Yeah, and just a little snow, and I think a little snow, and what it'll do is well, at least how I felt about it is, you get much snow, you really can't hunt effectively, so it can mess up your logistics, right? Like that time of year, it'll usually still melt off, but it can mess up when you're able to go and all that sort of thing. Probably, tell me if you differ on this opinion, Jimmy, but the worst thing a guy can do is draw the second season tag and then say, I'm going to hunt the last 5 days of the season. Cause you could get just washed out,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And that's, if you're going to hunt, I mean, I would encourage everyone that draws these tags not to just pick a single 5 days or whatever. Unless, obviously if you're doing a guided hunt, there's like some stuff that you can't work around. But typically, like if we see that there's snow coming, we're going to see if we can't push it back and try to make something work, because we're going to go out for a cold, snowy, wet hike. And not be able to get up to them or whatever the case is.
Right. Yeah, no, that's I think that's a good tip for people, man. You got any more goat units, Jimmy?
G6, I still like G6 a lot. It overlaps with S2. In the past couple years, they've really increased tag quotas in there. I really don't think the CPW had any idea how many goats were in there until probably the summer of 2021. The Rocky Mountain Goat Alliance did like a volunteer survey in there, and they counted a pile of goats. So I think the tag allocation.
You remember when I think me and you went up there a couple of times. We counted more goats in one sitting than they said there were in the entire unit. There was a few units like that. So they finally figured it out.
Yeah, so I think there's quite a few more goats. I do have a feeling that if they keep the tag allocation the way it is, it's going to start feeling a lot like G12 in the fact, and they're very, they're similar mountains, right? Super crazy rugged, but the easy billies that are living right above some lake at the back of a drainage, they've been getting shot. And those aren't going to be they're not going to be around much longer. So that hunt is going to start getting a lot harder to get one in an accessible spot. And then it does start feeling, it can start feeling crowded.
Competitive.
In there. It's a straight backpack hunt. So you got to be a little bit of a stud, or bring a bunch of buddies, or do a guided hunt. You're going to go hike in. Scouting can be helpful, but those goats go up and over the back of these drainages into another drainage that it would be impossible unless you're an expert mountaineer to get, but you're not going to do it with backpacks. Go up and over. And so you just hiked in 10 miles to the back of one of these drainages. Now you got to hike all the way out and go up the next one blind, basically, and hope that it didn't go over another.
Dude, I think that unit is kind of unique that way, Jimmy. It's hard to glass. It's hard to do like super effective glassing in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where you're avoiding what you're talking about. You're not basically there. You have to commit a couple days into, you got to, do a shot and go in there and hope there's goats in there based on your experience or scouting or whatever, and then come out and do another one. Sounds easy when you say it,
Yeah,
but it's hard. Yeah. Even if you're Go for it.
I had a guy in there, and I forget, a couple years ago, went in there, scouted 2 days before, found some goats, hiked in there, the goats weren't there, and then had to go turn right back around and hope that they were in the next one. Luckily it worked out, but
Yeah.
it damn near killed the guy.
Yeah.
And we were just hiking. We didn't even have meat on us yet, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, for sure. And
so it's a tough hunt, but good, a fun hunt.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's beautiful country. I always loved being in there, but it is tough. One thing that what you said made me think about something that I think would be good advice for people, and that's if you draw these tags, like the goat tag or the sheep tag, I think is in the same category. A lot of these sheep or goat tags, if you really got to make kind of a personal assessment of, hey, do I need help? Do I need to go guided, or can I really do this by myself? And do I feel comfortable doing that? And you have to make that assessment like early on. You know what I mean, Jimmy? Because I'm sure this trend has not stopped, but I recall for years, man, like I would have September be fully booked, just like sheep hunt after sheep hunt, goat hunt after goat hunt. You'd be guiding them, I'd be guiding them. We'd have other guys guiding them, and like the last 10 days, guys start calling that are frustrated. You know what I mean? And it's hard, like, as a guide or an outfitter, you want to help guys, but you can't. You got all your logistics all done. And so I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of miss out because they don't really realize exactly what they're getting into until they've been at it for 10, 15 days. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's just valuable for people to be realistic about it early on,
Yeah, and unfortunately, you put in for these tags. We're gonna find out if you draw them in like early May, I think, or late
maybe it's
April,
changed.
mid-April, maybe.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get up to the back of some of these drainages the day you find out that he drew that tag, and then you overestimate your physical ability, or you underestimate the ruggedness and the remoteness of some of these units, and then you're up shit creek because you thought you were going to go and do this on your own, or maybe you were going to do it and you were going to have all this time for scouting, but then someone passes away in your family and you don't, like, there was an S2 hunter this year who was going to go and do it on his own. His brother unfortunately passed away. Season opened up and asked if we could do it, and it's like, we don't have the capacity at this time to help you, and it sucks because again he didn't shoot a sheep.
It's such a bummer on those things, and it could be just a stat, getting with a guide and booking a hunt like with you guys or whatever, or it could just be like locking down 3 or 4 friends that are gonna hunt with you for sure. You know what I mean? But anytime somebody tells me they're going to approach it by themselves, it depends on the unit, of course. There's exceptions to this. But if the people tell me that they're going to try, I'm going to try it by myself for a week or 10 days. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it makes sense in a lot of these places,
No, you shouldn't. And to go and to think that you're going to go pack out a goat out of some crap hole by yourself, you're crazy. At best, you've got two trips. I've packed out one goat by myself, but I was fortunate enough. I gave emptied my pack out, gave everything that I had in my pack when the hunt started to the hunter. He just carried, my tripod, spotter, all that kind of stuff, and I took the whole goat and had like the cape in my arms going down the mountain. And I was also, 26 at the time. You're not, there was no way that I could even, I would have had to go and take a second trip just to go up and get my optics back.
Yeah.
Like I was at capacity with just a goat.
I think goats, just reflecting on my experience with them, people way underestimate how hard they are to pack out. And I think a lot of it has to do with the terrain, but also people don't realize, because so many people want them full body caped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guided guys want that, but a lot of do-it-yourself guys want that too. They either want to make a rug out of it or full body mount or whatever. And that makes sense. Their hides are beautiful. But those things, they suck to pack out. Yeah, I mean, they're bulky and there's no structure to them, and then they're heavy when you have the whole thing together like that. I'm with you, man. They're one of the harder pack outs, and they're one of the more dangerous. I remember years ago, oh, it's probably been a decade now, but a guy died in the Bills packing a goat out. Just fell forward. I think at night. I think he was doing it at night. So yeah, it's pretty serious business. I think that's one for sure you want help with. Because of the kind of technical aspect of it. But yeah, man. What else you got for goats?
And then that G18. So G3, G2, G6 top picks. That G18 I think is going to be real unique. I mean,
how many tags?
4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a pretty decent chunk. It's, again, you spent a bunch of time in there, but it's going to be a rugged, gnarly backpack style hunt. I think there's quite a few goats in there. Actually, I know there are, and then I know that there's some really nice billies in there too. Again, it's going to be like that is some gnarly country. And I was just on Xing it yesterday because I was thinking about putting it in there. Sure. And you're looking at your minimum 10 miles to get back into goat country hiking.
Yeah, and that's what I was.
Or at least what I thought looked like good goat stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right. The one challenge of that is that your approach. So most of your approaches are in the wilderness too. So you got to figure out those logistics. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a long approach to get in there, but super cool country. There's actually a bunch of people that think. You ever heard of the Lost Dutchman mine? See, it's like this old myth about this Lost Dutchman. They call him the Lost Dutchman, but he ended up. They think he had this like very productive silver mine, and there's a whole group, a lot of people who are like trying to find this treasure.
Okay.
Like because he ended up coming in and there's a bunch of documented evidence of that he had like high quality silver with him, and they checked it. And then he ended up, I think the story is he ended up getting killed in a bar in the town. And then somebody found out that he had already killed his buddy in the mine claim with him. But anyway, so there's this whole convoluted story. And if you get on Google, there's people that like dedicated their life to this. Some people think it's in the Holy Cross.
Oh, okay. That'd be awesome. Fine.
Yeah, there's some other places, but and a lot of the reasoning why people think it's in the Holy Cross is because the Holy Cross, it's right there between Aspen, Vale, Eagle, Avon. I mean, there's a lot of population there, so there's this idea that it's not that remote, but it's actually pretty remote and it's pretty damn rugged, But yeah, no, cool. Super cool area. When I was a little bitty kid, my dad actually outfitted on one edge of it. But yeah, man. What about moose?
Yeah, moose. Your stereotypical moose units like up by Walden 6. That's going to be there's giants coming out of there. There's a bunch of tags in there. But the draw is like there's for as many tags that are in there, it is a hard draw. Say like what's it? 19 is another good unit up there, but and lots of big moose. But it's a very historically been lots of big moose coming out of there, but it's also really accessible for a lot of people on the Front Range. And people that live in Fort Collins, they're when they're going out to recreate in the summer, they're seeing all these moose, and I think a lot of guys are putting in there because they know they could go do it on their own. They see moose all the time in there, and they're big and they're visible, and so it's a good unit, but it's a little bit harder to draw. 12, 23, 24, northern part of the flat tops. I think that is probably one of the most undervalued moose tags out there. They give out quite a few tags in there, non-resident tags.
You basically have to horseback hunt it, Jimmy.
So 12, 23, there's some pretty good road access in some of those spots. 24 is going to be mostly wilderness horsebacking. And my guess is, I haven't looked at the statistics or anything where a lot of the moose are shot, but my suspicion is I would guess that more of the bigger moose are coming out of 24.
Okay. Yeah, and 24 is the more inaccessible part of it.
Yeah, saying. Correct. Yeah, it's a lot more wilderness in there, and having horses or access to horses. After shooting one this year, like thank God, we had horses and mules. There's no way that I'd be getting it out.
I mean, my personal opinion, man, is in particular. I mean, I guess it depends on when you're going. But if you're hunting them the first couple of weeks of September, because the season opens like the same as goats and sheep typically, right? Like first week of September or something like that.
So I think last year it was like September 10th. I think is when it opened, and so a lot of these tags are also season choice. So you could go out hunting with your bow for 2 days, then go muzzleloader opens up, go out for a few days with that, and then you could go out with your rifle too.
Yeah, dude, I kind of feel like personally, Jimmy, like some of like you mentioned 24, but some of these other remote moose areas, like if you're out there mid-September, you better have a bunch of guys with you, or it's almost a little bit irresponsible just because it's so hard. It's so hard to get a moose out, you know.
Yeah, it for sure is. Now, I mean, some of these more accessible roaded up areas, you could do it, and maybe you can even drive up. You
can winch one in the truck.
Yeah, like walk through. Like they had a packet 40 yards to the truck to get it. But is that what you want from your hunt too?
Yeah, sure.
I'm a little lame in that I think the aesthetics of it really matter. Matter more to me than the antlers.
It's kind of like the sheep thing, dude. Like a horseback moose deal, where there's not a lot of places that you can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's same deal. Like you go do the horseback deal because is that the difference, Jimmy? And I'm not that familiar. Like all that Buena Vista corridor stuff over there, Buena Vista, Leadville, all of that. I'm real familiar with the sheep and goat hunting, but I'm not really familiar with the moose over there. What's the difference between those units and then the flat top stuff you're just talking about? Is the accessibility, the moose quality? Like, what's the difference?
Well, so some of that stuff like that's in 49 in the Buffalo Peaks wilderness. I mean, that's a wilderness area. We had a moose hunter in there this past year.
Okay.
Again, we went in horseback on the deal. But so that 49 tag, it's 49 and 5, or is it 500 or 50? I forget what it is. Yeah, 49, 500. That is probably the perfect unit with the ideal mix of road accessibility and wilderness.
Okay.
In my mind, like if you want a nice split, that 49, 500 tag is going to be pretty awesome for that. Some of the 48, 481, and that 49, 500, there's some giant moose that come out of there. Some huge ones, but I guess that's kind of everywhere in the state. Like there's a giant everywhere. 48, 481, there is there's some wilderness in there. I would venture to guess that probably the better moose hunting is going to be kind of road accessible.
Yeah.
In there, I don't know if it would behoove you to take horses in there. I don't think it would add that much to the hunt. But like that 12, 23, 24, yeah, I think horses would give you a big advantage. So that way you can get deep into unit 24.
Sure.
And then same thing with 25, 26, 231, which is where I hunted last year. There's a good chunk of that has a bunch of road accessibility. This is only the third year that they're giving moose tags out in there. So it's not like they're shot up. You're still going to be able to walk up on a bunch of them. But again, you know, if you value the aesthetics of the hunt, and don't want, you know, people rapping by you on an ATV, getting into the wilderness with horses would be
really beneficial. I mean, or if you just want to make sure and cover it all, you know what I mean? Yeah,
and honestly, I only hunted the rifle part of the season, Cliff, and we ran into some weather issues as well. I don't think there's a chance in hell if you hunted the 10 or 14 days for rifle season, the rifle season part of it, you could cover 25, 26, 231.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like, you could cover them if you're just roading it. You're somewhat.
Yeah. If you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if you're just,
I'm not that familiar with the stuff outside of 25, 26. If you were just on the road, would that limit you severely? Or I could be wrong, man.
Yeah, I think you would. I think if you were just road, like just cruising the roads on your four-wheelers and stuff, and especially if you had a buddy that was able, you know, you're going to go left, he's going to go right.
Yeah.
Wherever you dump the four-wheelers out at, you for sure could cover all of it, but it's going to be you know, not quite as large of a chunk.
Yeah, but you could hunt it hypothetically that way, and you'd probably do pretty well. Yeah. Nice. Good deal. Yeah, man.
So on the moose stuff, kind of top picks on that. 12, 23, 24, 49, 500, 48, 481. For the quality, the amount of animals, draw success in there. Those are probably going to be some of your better units. 25, 26, 231. There's only, I believe there's only going to be one resident tag in there again. But so that if you're a non-resident, that's not going to be one for you. So if for the non-resident guys, 12, 23, 24, 49, 500, 48, 481 should be kind of, those would be the on my radar ones.
Yeah. Good deal. And tell me if I'm wrong, Jimmy, but generally on moose, it always seemed to me like there's not really like units that are known as they just don't produce big moose in Colorado. Like most of the bull tags you draw are good tags. Like there's potential to kill a big Shiras moose.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that at the end of the day, like, I mean, I've heard some, you know, rumors that when they were reintroducing the moose, they got some of the moose from like Utah and some of them from Wyoming, and that, you know, that was part of it. But honestly, at the end of the day, I think it's just like almost any other species. If you let a big part of the population just get old, you're gonna have big animals.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Cool, man. Well, we covered all those species, Jimmy. I mean, particularly given that a big part of your business is elk, man. Do you got anything to say on the elk draw or the deer draw?
You know, the elk draw, no, not that much. Sure. And again, the goat, sheep, and moose draw is a very different style of draw than the deer, elk, and antelope draw. Right. And if you go onto our blog page on Flat Tops Wilderness Guides, you can see I wrote an article a few years ago about how that weighted point draw works. But as far as
people should check that out, because the math on it is fairly funky, and I think people are misled into believing a lot of the time that they think they have way better odds than they actually do, and
Yeah.
they're misled into thinking that there's not a huge variation between units. And this, for some reason, this is particularly the case for guys that have like 25 points. They think it still makes sense to apply for the very best unit. And when you look at the math, a lot of the times there's a way better chance they're going to die with those points than draw those units. So it's interesting. I think people should check it out.
Yeah, and I probably need to go in there and re-update it with some of the new statistics and everything. And I'll call out, like, I consciously wrote it like that. But I didn't include it in the article, and a guy actually called me out on it last year that I was wrong.
Yeah.
But the way they actually do these weighted point systems, they assign you a random 12-digit number. So I don't know, like, Cliff, what is 12 digits? Like a trillion?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So a crazy huge number, and then they take the amount of points you have and divide that random 12-digit number by your number of points.
Yeah.
So that's why you still see these guys that, like myself, that had a super low number on Moose. Maybe I drew number 50,000. If you draw 50,000 and divide it by, the few points that I had, I'm for sure getting the tag.
Yeah,
Whereas
sure.
if you're the guy that had 30 points and you drew number 700 billion, doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't
700
matter.
billion divided by 30 is still a lot.
Yeah.
So
yeah. The main thing about it is I guess, I understand why they do it that way, because they want people to have a chance down lower, but it just is what it is. I don't know if I have an opinion about the fairness of it, Jimmy, because I don't really, it's all subjective. It's like, should the people with all the points get all the tags, or should we always encourage people to get into it's like this weird kind of gray area where it's hard to define what makes the most sense. But the main thing is that people kind of need to understand what the odds are that they actually face.
Yeah, and the guys that the cumulative draw success, like the big takeaway on that whole article I wrote, was cumulative success. So putting in every single year is way, 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 way better than waiting until you have 20 points.
Oh yeah.
Like I talked to a guy the other day. He's like, I have 22 points. I'm ready to go sheep hunting. And it's like, awesome. When you draw it, give me a call. I'm not taking your money until you draw it, because even at 22 points, you're in the single digits of percentage points. You're at 9% odds, maybe. So basically, you're still not going to draw the tag. Whereas if he would have put in for 22 years or whatever, there's like an 86% chance he would have drawn the tag by then already.
Yeah. And this is what you're describing is really important that people understand, Jimmy. Like, they give you the option of just getting a point. Don't do that. Anytime, like, for these really hard to draw tags, sheep, goat, and moose, if you're gonna put in for them, always try to draw a tag. Because if you wait 20 years, in terms of the probability of drawing the tag during your lifetime, you've already reduced that drastically by waiting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a super good point.
And I'll give Dan a shout out. You kind of know who Dan is, a buddy that I've had a bunch of times. He was asking me who he, what units he should be applying for his sheep. He's shot a goat and a moose already.
Yeah.
And he's going to Alaska for like 2 weeks moose hunting.
Yeah.
During the sheep season. He's like, I'm thinking about just putting in for the point. I was like, dude, do not do it. Put in for like a badass unit. And if you do happen to draw it, you're just going to have to quit your job and go sheep hunting. But you still probably aren't going to draw it. Just put in for it. That might be the only exception where you should maybe, like, if you already have like these these other things going on in your life where you might put in for a point. But
the thing is because there's always a part of me that if people get torn between different hunts when they draw multiple great hunts, So that's always not the best thing. But in this case, when we're talking about very low probability of drawing, you always have the option of returning the tag and getting your points back and being back at square one or whatever. So if something like just crazy is going on in your life where you draw two awesome tags, or somebody dies, or you get divorced, or all that stuff, you can still return it. But don't go decades not putting in for a sheep or goat tag and just accumulating points, because you lose, like you say, such a huge chunk of your chances,
Yeah.
And you see that anecdotally. A lot of the people that I guided over the years had less than 10 weighted points.
Yeah. I'm one of them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But so to get back to your question about the deer and elk, which is the bulk of our business. The elk, like I said at the beginning, I think you should really think about building a couple of points, so that way when and if these over-the-counter units do go to a draw, you'll be in the game to go still, to still be able to hunt.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's a great piece of advice, Jimmy, because there's a chance, man. There's a chance. Like I used to some guys there in Eagle. There's some guys that have drawn multiple sheep tags in Colorado, and that's because they were putting in for it before it was really like that big of a deal. Well, dude, in 20 years, maybe the elk hunting will look like that. You know what I mean? And it's like, so you might as well start early in
Well, it kind of.
Go ahead.
It kind of is like some of those other units, right? You're at 25 points before you're drawing some of these elk tags. But no, I know what you're saying. Like, there is a chance if wolves are going to thrive and we can't knock their populations down, and maybe there's some little isolated herd of elk that don't have any wolves around, and that's where all the big ones are, and that's how you're going to have to, what you're going to have to do to get them. But no, on the elk stuff, other than that, nothing special. On the deer, I think, man, with these late season dates, like I was super pumped when they put fourth rifle for deer, basically going into almost December.
Right.
It's at least in our country, these, and maybe it's been weather and stuff, but these fourth rifle season hunts aren't what they once were. I think they're overvalued. I think a third season hunt now is better than a fourth rifle hunt for deer. One, it's longer, and I think the biggest deer that we've been killing, they're shot during third rifle. 44, the go-to magical unit for mule deer. The biggest deer shot in there this year was during third season. So there's, for the guys that, maybe you could go and hunt what you think is a lesser unit by going and hunt a better unit and hunt during third season, which you think is not as primo and statistically, as far as draw success goes, isn't, but you're actually going to be on a better hunt. That's my advice.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I mean, and there's that big differential between fourth and third, and it still prevails, right? And I think that's quota driven. There's such a lower quota during fourth season that it's like, it's way harder to draw that tag. And I think you're right. Like in a lot of units, they're at least equivalent, third and fourth. And then, like you're saying, in some places third might be better than fourth. And I don't know. People always ask me that, Jimmy, like why would that be? And I think it's unit by unit, but I think sometimes the deer, they vanish after third. I don't know if they go lower, they really travel. They might travel really far to like some other wintering ground that you don't really associate with those deer. I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know where. Well, I kind of starting to figure it out, but where our deer winter. I think they winter a lot further than you would think. And then during that fourth, and again, I think some of it might be weather driven. Like last year, there's a lot of snow that came during second rifle season, and our second and third rifle seasons were epic. And that snow stuck around, and those deer just boogied out of there come fourth rifle. But even in the past years where there hasn't, like if you look at, I guess it was 2021.
I lose track of them, man.
Yeah, 2021 fourth rifle season. There's hardly any snow, and the deer hunting wasn't as epic as you would think. And I think those deer just naturally. They're looking at the stars or the sun or whatever. They got an internal clock that tells them we need to be here by this date.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, man. But cool, dude. Those are all good, man. You got anything else for the listeners?
As far as bookings and stuff go, if you want any recommendations on these sheep, goat, moose units, I'll be publishing that blog. It'll be on the Flat Tops Wilderness Guides webpage. I'll also hopefully later today be publishing kind of a guide on how to navigate the CPW. Basically walking you step by step on how the draw works. If you're looking for a hunt, we've got a couple of archery drop camps left over. 2024 for rifle seasons. There's a couple, I think 2, maybe 1 rifle drop camp left. Almost all booked up on the rifle guided stuff for the future. If you draw one of these sheep or goat units, if you're thinking about going guided with me or with anybody else, call that outfitter as soon as you see the money leave your bank account, so that way you can get some dates nailed down with that guide to get your hunt booked. It's going to be a first come first serve basis, and you don't want to call 5 days later and everyone be kind of booked up.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great piece of advice, man. Cool, Jimmy. Well, hey, man, how can people keep in touch with you and follow along? Give people your social media and all that stuff. Yeah,
so you can check us out on Instagram. It's Flat Tops Wilderness Guides. We also have a Horn Fork Guides Instagram page, and then an LKS Outfitters Instagram page. So you got three to follow there. You can check us out on Facebook as well. And then if you want to get a hold of us, you can go to the Flat Tops Wilderness Guides website or the Horn Fork Guide website and send us an email, or you can shoot me an email directly at j.oswald@ftguides.com.
Cool, man. Thanks for being on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cliff.
If you want to keep in touch with me, get on my website at pursuitwithcliff.com and sign up for the newsletter. Check out my YouTube channel. It's just under my name, Cliff Gray. And you can follow me on Instagram at Cliff, Gry. Thanks for listening.